Welcome to the Social Landlord podcast, where smart investing meets peace of mind. Today, we're joined by Ahmed from Citywide, just to discuss some potential requirements in the areas and make people aware of the figures for the people actually waiting for properties throughout, England, Yorkshire mainly.
Yes, England and Wales.
So a lot of people don't actually understand how many people are waiting for properties or how many houses are required for social housing up and down the country.
The numbers are phenomenal and they're growing week in, week out. So the demand is huge, but the supply is not. The two areas that we predominantly cover is Yorkshire and Greater Manchester. If you add up all the waiting lists, those that are in need of accommodation, suitable accommodation, appropriate accommodation, it's in the hundreds of thousands.
So I've got some figures. I won't get my piece of paper out yet because I can actually remember this one. So throughout Yorkshire and Greater Manchester, there's 349,000 bed spaces required for social housing properties, and this is only increasing day on day. So why is there such a backlog, and why are we not able to fulfil that requirement?
I think the biggest problem is the councils themselves. They need to be a lot more proactive in working with private landlords and developers, which they're not. They've already started selling off a lot of their social housing in the last 2 decades, so their stock is dwindling, but the requirement is increasing. So what is needed is private money funded into the sector. So in all fairness, councils have got a job to do, providers have got a job to do. They are labelled as housing providers, but they're not providing the property they should do, hence why they come to organisations like us, who've got access to investors, capital that we can deploy and provide the properties to them.
So I think part of the issue as well is what we've noticed is in areas where you've got a high demand, it's primarily monopolied by providers that will only develop their own stock. Things like that, like you said, that won't work with smaller private landlords. So I think it needs to be across the board that, there are providers that will work with small-timer landlords, small investors, things like that, not just develop their own stock to sell on for profit, rather than actually trying to address the problem of the 350,000 houses needed just within that small area.
We work diligently to partner with the right providers, because that's quite crucial, because we serve ourselves and our investors and our stakeholders, and if the partnership is mutually beneficial, then it's a great recipe for success. So we have been striving for many years now to do exactly that, and we're getting there because the demand is just crazy.
I think for us, we started off a few years ago just by delivering single units as and when to certain providers. There was a time where we'd go to providers and they weren't really interested because they didn't hear about us. But now I think with me and Lewis, we had this conversation yesterday about a certain provider as well. Now they're ringing us saying, can you give me properties in this area? Because we've delivered for them in the past. They know we've got the capacity to grow as well. We're helping them grow. But what helps us massively now is, I'm just going to touch slightly on this now, is the developments that we're doing for social housing, because that is a very niche market and it's not for everybody.
And it's opened a lot of providers' eyes to the fact that even just your smaller landlords, like you say, it doesn't have to be a large institution. It's opened their eyes that even smaller landlords are open to doing developments like that.
I don't think it's kind of that. I think it's more to do with certain providers won't blink an eye at you maybe 2-3 years ago, but now because they've seen the development Citywide have done for larger organisations who are offering a more watertight lease, who are a more, I would say, backed company, more blue chip organisations than the smaller ones that we work with all respect to each of them, they're doing well in their own sectors. But you have some that offer you, I'd say, a lifetime lease. It's a lifetime investment. Yes. Once we've started doing these, we've actually done maybe 3-4 in the past year. I think a lot of it is landlords even appreciate the part of an organisation like us, where there's a lot going on, but again, we're still delivering with the smaller units.
I do remember when we first started, they wouldn't entertain us. It was hard to get meetings, sat down with these providers, and now we're in a very fortunate position where they're in contact with us. They sort our services because we deliver. And going back to your point was they're wanting larger purpose-built blocks, little estates, so like a block of flats, be it 7, 10, 12, in a certain area. We can then go to the market, source, purchase, adapt, renovate, and deliver.
I think for us to grow even more, as experienced and as helpful as we are in our own grounds, we can only do so much because only so many hours in the day. We can only cover so much ground because of the distance from going A to B. I think we do need maybe more agents.
We need partners, yes.
We need more partners. We do need more agents to help us. Like, for example, Mo received an email last week from a certain provider saying they need large blocks of flats in a lot of areas. Me, Lewis, and yourself, Ayub and Mo, we can only find out for certain, because there's only, if we need to go to Birmingham today, we can't get from Birmingham to, for example, Doncaster in the same day. It's just not possible. We can't cover everything together. So I think we need more partners to come on board with us and help us, because the sourcing fees, they're massive anyway. We're generous with what we give. And there's agents out there who are waiting for somebody to actually help them.
Indeed, I agree. Having partners in key strategic locations around the country, we can support them, educate them, and assist them, both financially and education to the property sector.
We actually had an inquiry through on the Citywide website for a chap that's looking to purchase a family house in Bradford. Got speaking to him on the phone, and he's saying that he's currently working for a telephone company. He works for the web help, like the chatbot thing. And then he just dropped in that he'd been sourcing properties on the side. And then as we were speaking to him, I was like, right, okay. So he was sourcing properties, and he says he was finding deals that to him worked, but he just didn't have anywhere to put them. He's coming in the office tomorrow at 2:00, in the hopes that he can source properties, put them on a lease with us, and make himself a passive income.
I think we need to have a support network.
It's just to completely...
What we offer, I say to all my investors, when Silk Investments used to source, when we used to source properties about 4 or 5 years ago before, you used to find a property, but really and truly, it used to be easier to sell the properties in and around our radius in terms of if we can manage them or not. Anything in, let's say, Lancashire, in Derby, in Scarborough, is difficult to sell because our investors trust Citywide and Silks so much. If we say jump, they say how high. Because it's just the trust that we've grown with them over time. They'll take our word for it. Now, when you send a property, before when you used to send a property out, we used to write achievable rent, or you'd get a good tenant, or you're going to get someone that's going to pay on time. And all these questions, what if he doesn't pay? What if I don't get that? That is always a problem, and it was difficult to sell the property. Whereas now, you were not just sourcing. I always say to people, you're an investment asset management company. You're investing and sourcing through Silks. Silks is then giving you an exit strategy through Citywide Housing. So we might be charging you, a normal estate agent or normal sourcing agent might charge you £3,000, £5,000 sourcing fees, but they sell the property to you and you each go on your own way. You're on your own after that.
Once they've been paid,
they're not interested. They're not interested. Whereas with us, we have to be extra careful, extra diligent, because we sell the property to you. We're already telling you we're going to manage it for you as well. We're charging you the same amount. So in essence, it's a totally hands-off investment where we're sourcing the property for you. We've got our team of contractors who will do the work for you. During the sales, we've got our own sales progression team who will carry out the sales and the progressions with the solicitors. We'd only contact the vendors or the investors as and when we need something from them. Then we're going to manage it for you as well. So we have to be very careful in terms of how we market it, and it comes to a time where Lewis
has got to deal with it.
We've got to deal with it, and people appreciate their time. It's a chance for other agents. When I've got other agents that I work with, for them, it's like Lewis mentioned, they can't sell it, but it's not just about selling it. They don't have the knowledge when it comes to sales progression. They can't handle it. Whereas with us, other agents, they can bring us properties, we can sell it for them, and then there's nothing that agents needs to do.
Yeah, got people that excel in sourcing, but genuinely they do not even know
After
the
that,
process
they don't know.
from there.
I think combined efforts is crucial. We are a support network. we've got the contacts, we've got the knowledge, we've got the experience, and we're always welcome to sit down with agents, partners, and assist in this crisis, because we are in a crisis.
What we
say
to people all the time is when they ask us for, can you help me with accounts, like Ishtiaq was on our podcast as well.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever a landlord comes to me, Ishtiaq handles our company's accounts. So the people that we refer you to are people who we've got first-hand experience
Indeed.
with. So even if they've got a problem, it's like insurance companies. We've got our own insurance companies that we work with. So whenever I say to my landlords is, ring the company, give them your details. If you're not sure about your cover, ask the insurance company to call me. But just give them your details, allow me to speak on your behalf.
I think what you're doing there, you're only recommending organisation that you'll use yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Even when agents come on board with us, they always ask, where do I go from here? Where do I go from? I had an agent come to me last week and he goes, Faiz, I've got a 4-bed house in Liverpool that I want to buy, but I don't have the funds to buy right now. I've only got 30% and I don't want to take out a mortgage. So I said, how do you want me to help? And he goes, well, we've done a few deals in the past where we've sourced and we've sold for him. Mm-hmm. So what we've done with him is we've introduced to do a purchase lease option with him. So for 5 years, bring the property on a social housing lease.
That's a very good point. It's not just property management. We're very creative in acquiring sites,
exactly,
properties, lease options, delayed options, vendor finance. So, yeah.
So another agent rang us last week saying he's building 10 flats in Bradford, but he doesn't want to take out a mortgage. He's happy for somebody to lend him the money.
Mm-hmm.
Then they pay you back from the rent, and in 3 years you get a certain return. So it's all fixed on percentages. So again, it's come through an agent. So from our help, there's more advantages for agents to work with us because we're not your one-stop shop. We've got enough experience, enough members to be creative.
I totally agree. I mean, it's not just agents, it's landlords, portfolio landlords. A lot of these old school landlords that have been in the industry for 20, 30 years, it's getting to a stage where they come to retirement and they've built this vast portfolio, and it's a case of, okay, it's time to offload. And we can assist with offloading and placing these very properties, whether it's outright sale or to a longer term lease.
Whether or not they want to sell it or whether they would just decide to retain it but have a hands-off approach.
I think actively, yeah.
There has been a survey done. We haven't done the survey ourselves, and I don't know the numbers of how many people have been tested or asked this question. But out of X amount of private landlords, over 26% of them at the minute are considering selling or getting out of the property industry completely.
Yes, we take it to a higher level. So there's approximately...
So that's 1 in 4 people. 1 in 4 people don't want anything to do with rental properties anymore.
Correct. So at the there's over 8 million properties. Half of them are private rented, of which 26% of landlords want to sell up in the next 24 months. And it shows you that it's not as easy as it was renting as it was a decade ago. Tenants have got a lot of rights. There's a lot of compliance and regulations that have been introduced, and that
put the landlord on the back foot. It is
putting the landlords off. And they think, okay, it's not as great as it was. So this is why, hence, it's selling up.
I think there's a lot of other, how would I say, focus, social media on other forms of investments at the moment. Your crypto, your forex, and all this other sort of stuff. So
I think you have to.
These people are also as well thinking, let
me cash up.
He's bought a dog coin there and he's made 10x his money.
I think what people misunderstand is social media. It can be a fake. It can be. It's like when somebody sells crypto online, they're not selling crypto to you. They're selling you their lifestyle. So you're not even. Your first mindset, I want a Lamborghini. You don't think I'm going to invest in crypto saying I want a Lamborghini, because they're not really showing you, they're not educating you how they've just enticed you. How difficult
it is to actually do it successfully.
You've just been enticed in by a 1 minute or 30-second reel, just showing you their lifestyle.
Yeah. I mean, real estate has tested its time, centuries. It's always by far the number one safe haven for your investment, for your cash. Hence why this is going to continue to move forward. You can never go wrong with investments in the real estate industry. And going further from your question, a lot of landlords are wanting to offload. The reason is why. What is their pain? What's their issue? One is they did a survey as you mentioned, 1 in 5 landlords have a tenant currently in rent arrears. And when you look at the eviction rates,
that's pretty much your 26%.
Yeah,
that's your.
That are in rent arrears. I think the figure was it was 255,000 tenants are constantly struggling to pay their next month's rent. And the issue we have here is rents have gone up. But tenants really can't afford.
With these
wages haven't gone up.
With these LHA rates going up in April, a lot of landlords are expecting their rents to go up. But me being transparent as I can be, I'm sure we're all the same when we have a conversation with our landlords. Like in Leeds, for example, 2-bed rate is going up to £850 a month. Today, average tenant will be paying about 600 to 700 affordable rent. As some landlords asking their rent to be increased to 800 from 600, and you have to stop them and explain to them, look, it's good and well increasing the rent, but are they going to be able to pay?
Fire is a very, very good point. The tenant may be forced to pay the extra £200, but how long can he consistently pay? And then moves on to other statistics. You know, I love my statistics. 52% of evictions that go through the courts are from those private landlords that are struggling to get the rent from their tenants because they've increased it. So it has a knock-on effect.
Well, it doesn't help that when the tenant phones the council up and says, I can't afford my rent, all the council tell you to do is pay your council tax, stop paying everything else.
The council can't afford to house.
They say pay your council tax and go buy your food and pay your utility bills to keep your gas and electric on. The first thing they tell you to stop paying is your rent.
Yeah, they'll say, we'll support you.
The council can't afford to have homeless people. Especially in Leeds, we've realised if a tenant goes to the council with a Section 21, the council, one of them, I remember particular, the words from the council was stay there, the landlord won't go to court and kick you out.
Indeed, so they're encouraging the tenants to stay put. What they don't realise is Mr. Landlord has got a mortgage to pay.
Exactly.
He's got bills to pay.
Landlords are always shown as a bad guys, but people tend to forget there are investors out there who own multiple properties, but there are landlords out there who, using the rent, have to pay their own mortgage that they live in their own house, and they do try to help with the tenants. Not all landlords are rogue landlords. There might be some out there, but a lot of them, they're not. They're just generally there to make a living, a property that they've had.
Like Ishaq said, you get some that have got 2 properties, some that have got 200, and I think if you catch someone that's at the beginning of the journey and they've only got 1 or 2 properties, and you stop paying your rent like that, they're going to default on the mortgage. From the very beginning, they've had a negative outlook on this entire thing. You potentially cause the landlord a load of debt, or they just sell up and they're out. So your alternate then is large corporations charging you rent rather than your private individuals. So you've got a monopoly again on what rent they can charge because they own 30% of the houses in the country, because private landlords are selling up. So it's not going to benefit them by, gaslighting landlords, making them out to be the bad ones. But if they all sell up, where do you think the rental properties are going to come from?
I mean, the biggest killer is rent, non-payment of rent. Which one of the reason we set up Citywide was let's fix the rent. Let's ensure that our landlords get the rents on time every month, year in, year out. It just nips the bud in one of the major pain points. And now we're establishing that.
I think
no voids.
Just done a lot. No voids. Yeah.
No voids, no arrears.
No voids, like you say, main pain. And I think if you can take away any maintenance or intentional damage costs, malicious.
At the moment, tenant damage is covered. The outer fabric of the building is always going to be the landlord's responsibility.
Well, unless the tenant's going to pull the roof down, that's reasonable.
I think the bottom of this conversation is we're growing massively, and we need more agents to come on board with us, for agents and to source properties for us. Whether it be for social housing or whether it be for landlords to sell. I'm a very firm believer every agent, or every person, should I say, has their own little network. And you don't really know who's got landlords, which landlords got properties to sell unless you actually approach them. It could be anybody. It doesn't need to be a high profile person. each person has their own little contact, own little network, and we need more agents to tap into their networks and bring us more properties either to manage or to sell.
Just getting the message out there. We can offer that support network.
Well, speaking of getting the message out there, some requirements at the moment. I know we've got a constant demand in Bradford. That's family houses, HMOs, blocks of flats. You can find an exit for pretty much anything in Bradford. Leeds, Wakefield. I've seen a massive increase in demand in Accrington, but Wigan as well at the moment.
Okay.
Tameside, St Helens.
I need small blocks in
like
Manchester as well.
Yeah, so the demand is huge, so we need more agents, more investors, more landlords. We need more properties. Yeah, the area is growing, and we're in a fortunate position where we can start negotiating better terms. Because if you've got a demand and supply issue, those have got the supply, have got the stock, favourable terms, higher rates. We're always striving to get as high rents as possible for our landlords. Always. It's about strategic negotiating.
Let's see where we get to in a month's time. Let's see where we get to in a month's time.
So, yeah, lovely. Whilst we've got that then, any houses, HMOs, blocks of flats throughout Yorkshire and Greater Manchester, reach out to Citywide because they've got an exit in place, whether you want to sell it, whether you want to put it on a lease. But either way, we need it.
We do indeed. And contact us. Reach out to us.
Lovely. I think that's all we've got time for. Thank you very much for joining us today. Make sure to like, subscribe and follow wherever you're watching your podcasts.